This podcast contains excerpts from New Soul Radio shows. For the full listening experience with music, visit newsoulradio.com. That's NUSOL radio.com. This is Soul Say.
The following thoughts and opinions do not represent New Soul Radio, Soul Say and Company, or any of our affiliates, advertisers, or sponsors. You're listening to Gems and Jams with Kim Brio on newsoulradio.com.
WSOLDB Chicago New Soul Radio. This is Kim Brio, and you are listening to Gems and Jams. And I know you're like, wait, that intro is a little different. It is. Welcome to Gems and Jams' new home, which is New Soul Radio, WSOLDB Chicago. Guys, it's my station. Isn't that great? I am excited about this wonderful new endeavor. New Soul Radio is neo soul and R&B from the 2000s to now. We jam out. It's definitely a very chill, vibey station. And when I'm not on air or someone doesn't have a show, guys, it's always 24/7 streaming neo soul and R&B. So it is definitely something you want to learn more about. So New Soul is NUSOL, New Soul Radio. So we are definitely on Instagram right now, as well as Facebook and the website, newsoulradio.com. And guys, guess what? Within the next few days, I'm so excited, the official New Soul Radio app will be available. Kind of going back and forth with Apple and Google. Just going ahead and getting it accepted and everything. But guys, I'm really excited about what's to come. So welcome to Gems and Jams' new home right here on New Soul Radio. So for those of you who know me, I'm Kim Brio, and I'm not a newbie to radio. I've kind of been here, there, and everywhere. I did radio back in my college days, and now that I'm back around to radio, I have jumped in full force. I am not even waist deep, y'all. I am neck deep in this thing, and I am loving it. So I'm going to play a little music for you guys. Now listen, for anyone who's listening for the first time, Gems and Jams was on a station that did all old school and dusties. So I definitely have some listeners that when they heard the change, they reached out and they were like, my music. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to baby step you into this. I'm going to baby step you into it. So know that you're going to hear some old soul and some new soul on this show, and maybe for the next few shows to come. We'll kind of play it by ear, but I'll definitely give you some of my old favorites and some of today's jams, you guys. So I'll be back, tell you more about the radio station, get into some life gems for this week, but go ahead and hop into this music. This is Kim Brio, and you're listening to Gems and Jams on WSOLDB Chicago, neo soul and R&B from the 2000s to now. This is New Soul Radio. Supporters of this show can join us on Patreon, where for only $5 a month, you can access all past shows and exclusive content. Join now at patreon.com/SoulSayCo. That's patreon.com/SOLSEICO. Want to answer one of our questions, or have a song or artist request, or do you just want to leave us some feedback? Call the New Soul Radio voicemail at 312-945-6376. That's 312-945-6376. Remember, we may play your message on air. WSOLDB Chicago, you are listening to New Soul Radio. This is Kim Brio, and this is Gems and Jams, my show Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. For now, that's when I have it. I may do it more. I mean, hey, that kind of happens when you run your own station. You can decide when you want to go on air, right? So shout out to that, guys. As you know, for listeners of the show, Gems and Jams is life gems and feel good jams. Now, I typically don't do solo shows. I mean, actually, the only solo show that I've ever done was for my 35th birthday, which was actually pretty epic and it was cool. But for the first show here on New Soul Radio, since it's my station, I decided I'm going to go ahead and do my first show solo dolo. But now don't forget, this Thursday, just as always, you are going to have Dr. Sherilyn Garrett here on Gems and Jams Radio. I don't know what we're going to talk about this week, y'all, because we have so many things that we can talk about this week. I mean, we've discussed topics, so who knows? But she will be here this Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m. Again, you can listen to Gems and Jams on newsoulradio.com. That's NUSOL radio.com, NUSOLradio.com. And, you know, hopefully I'll be telling you to download the app soon, and then I won't have to tell you anything. You'll be able to just click on the app and go in whenever you want to. Now, for today's life gems, I typically try to find and pull out things that are like actually happening in my life, right? So for any creatives, you know, writers, painters, dancers, even musicians, of course, especially musicians, typically your art is a reflection of what's going on around you, right? And that's even with the last show, the last episode of Gems and Jams. I spoke to Dr. Sherilyn Garrett, and we talked about the psychology of plus size women. And that was actually transparently triggered by a personal situation that happened to me that I shared on air with you. So kind of get used to that. When I have personal things around me that trigger certain thoughts, those are typically going to influence, you know, what I discuss on air. So, I mean, that's what life is about. So, y'all, recently I kind of had some interactions with a person that were not the best. Welcome to life, right? And when these things happen, because Dr. Garrett is an actual friend of mine, I reached out to her and I'm like, Dr. Garrett, this happened and I don't know what to do, how to feel. Y'all, I was just mentally and emotionally all over the place with the actions of the other person in this situation, right? So after I talked to her a little bit about it, she said, have you ever heard of the term gaslighting? I said, well, yeah, I've heard of gaslighting. And I guess on a really basic common sense level, I knew and understood what gaslighting was and is. But she kind of went into depth and kind of talked to me about gaslighting. And it made me jump in and do some research, right? So I found a really, really great article on Vox.com, that's VOX.com, by Robin Stern, who is a certified, I believe, psychoanalyst is the word that was used. But I wanted to give you the definition of gaslighting. We're going to talk about this definition a little bit. And then we're going to talk about, after this break and we play some more music, we're going to talk a little bit about how you know if you're being gaslit. And I'm going to keep referencing this same article because this article was a wealth of information. Now, gaslighting, the phrase to gaslight, quote, refers to the act of undermining another person's reality by denying facts, the environment around them, or their feelings. Targets of gaslighting are manipulated into turning against their cognition, their emotions, and who they fundamentally are as people. What? That sounded like a mouthful of information. That was a direct quote from the Vox article. Well, guys, have you ever interacted with a person and by the time you get done talking to them, they have flipped things around on you so much that you start to kind of question if you were right in the first place, if what you were thinking even made sense? Did y'all even experience the same thing? Did we just have the same conversation? Were we standing in the same place? And you're kind of just dumbfounded. You're like, yo, they make me feel crazy. This is a very often discussed characteristic to narcissists and narcissism, which I'm going to talk about one of these days too. But that's what gaslighting is. And I had to catch myself because I found myself being very emotional, but I was being gaslit. I was being given a version of the situation that wasn't necessarily what it was. And it made me start questioning my sanity. Like, did this happen? Did I dream this? Did this actually happen? Because I'm confused. And it wasn't me, y'all. I had to understand and do the research and understand that it wasn't me, and understand what was being done so that I could be able to operate accordingly, right? So I'm going to play a little bit of music, but when we come back, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to recognize that gaslighting is happening to you. And I'm going to continue to reference this Vox.com article by Robin Stern. So guys, again, this is Kim Brio. You're listening to Gems and Jams, Life Gems, and Feel Good Jams on WSOL-DB Chicago, New Soul Radio, Neo Soul and R&B from the 2000s to now.
Take New Soul Radio with you wherever you go. Download the New Soul Radio app in the Google Play or Apple App Store by searching New Soul Radio. That's NUSOL Radio. If you have any tips to host your own radio show, hit us up at teamsosay.com and drop your info. That's teamsosay.com. SOLSCI. Soul Say.
This is America.
Peace on left, justice on the right. Peace on left, justice on the right.
This is America.
This is the reason Kaepernick was taking a knee.
Heartbroken when I saw that video. I almost couldn't finish it.
Abuse of power.
We gotta start making changes.
There's a virus in police departments across this country.
If I rule the world,
cops arrest.
Good cops know who these bad cops are.
free all my sons.
You have every right to be angry.
Can you tell me why? Every time I step outside, I see my die.
You have no right to perpetrate violence on the very communities that you are standing up for.
A lot of people have been using my father's words.
That all men are created equal.
The only pathway to do this is through nonviolent means.
I'm letting you know that it ain't no gun they make that can kill my soul.
We will bring you justice, I promise.
But if God got us, then we gon' be alright.
Start making some changes.
Imagine that this radio spot is about your business. It's easier than you think. Text 630-465-5742 to get started. That's 630-465-5742.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. This is Kim Brio, and you're listening to Gems and Jams Radio on WSOL-DB Chicago, New Soul Radio, Neo Soul and R&B from the 2000s to now. I am super excited. This has been a good show, and you guys know I don't do many solo shows, but I'm actually having a pretty good time doing a solo show today. Now, this coming Thursday, of course, you know, every single Thursday, I have Dr. Sherilyn Garrett here, and our conversations are always freaking amazing. We have talked about everything from mental health in the Black community to the psychology of plus-size women to intergenerational trauma, adverse childhood experiences. And really just understanding yourself and the people around you. What are we going to talk about this Thursday, y'all? I'm not sure, because there's so much to talk about that we're going to talk about. I don't even know what we're going to cover this Thursday. But what I do know is that Dr. Garrett will be here. So, of course, this Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m., you're going to be tuned into Gems and Jams Radio. You can listen on newsoulradio.com. That's NUSOL radio.com, NUSOLradio.com. The app will be here soon, and of course, you will not miss that the app has come. I'm going to make a big hullabaloo about it and make sure that you have it downloaded on your phone. Now, I was talking about gaslighting during this episode, and I was talking about it because it's something that happened to me very recently, and I had to deal with it and really come to terms and understand what gaslighting was and recognize it so that I could recognize where to limit my, am I crazy in this? And also understand and be able to recognize it so that I can begin to guard myself in the future when you're dealing with people that gaslight you, which are quite often, y'all, bluntly, those are quite often narcissists, right? So before we went to break, I talked to you about what gaslighting is. Now, if you missed any of it, don't trip. Stick for the rest of the show. I'm about to talk to you now about how to recognize if it's happening. But if you missed any of the show, of course, you know you can catch all of the full episodes. Every episode I've ever done of Gems and Jams is available on Patreon right now at patreon.com/SoulSeico. That's SOLSEICO. Okay, now enough of all of that, y'all. Let's get to the good stuff. So I've been talking about and referring to this article by Robin Stern in Vox.com that spoke and discussed gaslighting. And we really went into what it was before this last break. But now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to recognize that gaslighting is happening to you. So Robin put together a list. Of things, and the list basically says if any part of this list resonates with you, you may be involved in a gaslighting relationship and you may need to look further into it. So understand that this is not saying that if you feel any of these things, you are definitely being gaslit, because these are all symptoms of some emotional and anxiety disorders too, maybe depression or low self-esteem, etc. So it's important for you to recognize where these are in your spectrum to where you are in life, right? But let's talk about it. So the first thing, you ask yourself, am I too sensitive? Many times a day. If you're always asking yourself, am I too sensitive, multiple times a day with the same person, that may be an idea that you may be being gaslit, you guys. Like, it just may be happening. Also, you often feel confused and even crazy in the relationship. You feel like what you're saying makes complete sense and you don't understand how it doesn't make sense to the other person. And they are often trying to make you feel crazy. They're pushing that narrative for you. You're always apologizing. Now, y'all, that's a bad symptom that I have in every facet of my life. Always apologizing. And as a 35-year-old woman, now I had to look back and understand that constant apologizing, like sorry for existing thing, it actually stemmed from a relationship in my 20s that I had with a narcissist. He was very emotionally abusive, and it unconsciously dug and put into my brain that what I wanted and what I thought was automatically wrong. So it carried through, and I am here a decade plus later, and I'm apologizing for everything that I do, etc. So that's another example as well. Another one, you can't understand why you aren't happier. You can't understand, why aren't I happier? Another, you frequently make excuses for their behavior. Oh, well, they're going through something. They have a lot going on. And that's why they treat me this way. And that's why they say these hurtful things, etc. Because they're going through something. Another, you know something is wrong, but you just don't know what. You know something is wrong. You can identify and pinpoint 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 in this situation. I understand, but you can't quite figure out what's wrong. That's another example. Another is you start lying to avoid put downs and reality twists. So have you ever been in a situation where these people have hurt you and you have literally lied or avoided telling the truth to them or other people to, how do I say this? To protect their feelings, even though in the situation you have already been hurt. Another example, you have trouble making simple decisions. Do I text or do I not text? If that's a big thing and you don't know what the response is going to be and how they're going to respond to it, it's some other deeper things that we may need to be talking about in reference to that situation. I'm just saying. And the last example is you wonder if you're good enough. those situations where you get done interacting with people, and no matter what things they've said to you in the past, after they've interacted with you, the way that they've treated you or talked to you or whatever makes you feel like, am I even good enough? These are all signs that gaslighting may be happening. Now, like I said at the beginning, these are all symptoms that can occur within anxiety or depression or low self-esteem. But yeah, guys, these are all things that can kind of help you figure out if you are being gaslit. So I'm going to play a little bit more music. And then when we come back, I'm sticking to the same article, y'all. Robin Stern, Vox.com article on gaslighting, an amazing resource. I'll throw it up on the website. But when we come back, I'm going to tell you the last thing that you may need to know and understand to figure out if you're being gaslit. And that is some of the common phrases and some of the things that the gaslighter will say to you. So after I come back and I tell you these phrases, if all of this has been identifiable, y'all, you probably in a gaslighting situation. So this has been Gems and Jams, definitely talking about life gems, but playing these feel-good gems. I'm going to get back into some music. You're listening to WSOL-DB Chicago, New Soul Radio, Neo Soul and R&B from the 2000s to now. This is Kim Brio. We'll be back.
Want 24/7 access to past shows, exclusive content, and VIP on-air opportunities? Join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Soulsay. That's SOLSEICO. Soulsay. Want more dope content? Check out Soulsay's YouTube by searching Soulsay on at Soulsay Chicago.
WSOL-DB Chicago, New Soul Radio, Neo Soul and R&B from the 2000s to now. This is Kim Brio, and you are listening to Gems and Jams, Life Gems and Feel Good Jams. Y'all, today we have been talking about gaslighting. We have been talking about gaslighting. I know that's been a really popular term. It's been up there with toxic, but we've really been digging in and understanding what it is and then how to identify different symptoms of if you're being gaslit, right? So if you've missed the beginning of the episode, don't trip. As always, you know that you can head over to the Patreon, join up and become a VIP, and you will be able to get all of the full episodes in their entirety of Gems and Jams. And that includes all of the episodes that I've had with Dr. Sherilyn Garrett, with Sky Culverson talking about some amazing financial literacy information, with Nizam talking about Black business from Reconstruction to now, y'all. I have had some dope content, and all of that is available on the Patreon. Patreon.com/SoulSayCo. That's SOLSEICO. This week, this is the first week that Gems and Jams is moved to a new home. We're now here at New Soul Radio. That's NUSOLradio.com, which I own, but I digress. We'll talk about that later. We'll do that on another show. But the first part of the show, we talked about defining what gaslighting was. The next part of the show, we kind of talked about how to recognize that it may be happening to you. And I kind of want to do a part 2 of that, right? So as you've been listening to the show, you may be going, you may be asking yourself, first of all, am I being gaslit? Or number one or number 2, am I a gaslighter? And I mean, the reality is everyone who listens to anything like this should always ask themselves that information. Like, you always got to double check with yourself and make sure that, you are not the problem in a lot of the situations. Self-reflection should be a consistent part of all of our lives, okay? But that's another episode for another time. So what I want to go over now, and then we're going to go ahead and end this episode out. I'm going to play y'all some great music until you go. But what I'm going to go through now is some common phrases that you might hear from your gaslighter. Okay. So if you're trying to figure out if you're being gaslit, you've listened to some of the things on the last section and you're like, I don't know, I might be, I don't know. And you question mark, I'm going to give you this list, and this list is pretty long, but I'm going to read each one to you. And I'm going to read each one because it's probably going to resonate with you. And again, this is from the Vox.com article on gaslighting by Robin Stern. Okay. So let's jump right in. The first thing you may hear them say is, you so sensitive. You are so sensitive. That's number one. Number two, you know that's just because you're insecure. If you say that you feel some kind of way or you express your feelings and they don't agree, it is clearly just because you're insecure. The next thing that they might say, stop acting crazy, or you sound crazy. You know that, right? They may also tell you that you sound paranoid, or you just love throwing me off track. Y'all, that one, that's a spot for me. When you come and you tell someone how you're feeling, you express how you feel. Maybe it's something that they've done that has hurt you, and you have that right to express that. And when you express that, you just love throwing them off track, like you're doing something wrong by expressing your feelings, and they haven't even addressed what you came to talk about in the first place. That's a manipulation and like a flip. Another thing, I was just joking. They real quick to say that I was just joking, but you didn't laugh. There was no LOL. There was no, but okay, you was just joking. The next thing, just to make you feel crazy, y'all, you just making this up. They may tell you plain and simple, you're making this up. I did not do XYZ, and you know good and well that they did, and you're making yourself like, am I crazy? They may also tell you it's no big deal. You're imagining things. You're overreacting. Or you are so dramatic. Don't get so worked up. That never happened. You know you don't remember things clearly, right? There's no pattern, or the pattern that you know that you see, they tell you and claim it's not there. They tell you you're hysterical. That there you go again. You are so ungrateful because why are you even talking to me about this when I just did XYZ for you, as if those have anything to do with each other. And then last but not least, nobody else believes you, so why should I? If you have ever been said these things by people, even if it's typically, if you've been said any of these things, it's probably more than one of these things. And it's typically probably by the same person. And this isn't a one-off incident. This is a habit. This is how you guys' relationship goes. Because typically, if you're in a relationship or a consistent relationship, and I don't just mean romantic, guys, I mean any relationship with a gaslighter, this is not new. This is something that goes back and forth. It's ongoing, right? If they say these things to you 9 out of 10 times, y'all, I'm sorry and I hate to break it to you, you're in a situation with a gaslighter. You are in a situation with a gaslighter now. What we're going to do in the future, I don't know if it'll be this Thursday, but what we're going to do in the future is we are going to talk to Dr. Garrett, and we're going to say, okay, what are the next steps? What do you do when you find out that you have a gaslighter, a narcissist, a toxic person, etc. in your life, right? What do you do? Of course, your common sense thing, you're like, drop them, get rid of them. Well, what do you do when they're your mother or your father, or you're married to them, or they're your child, or it's not a situation that you can just walk away from, or they're your boss and you've been at your job for 25 years and it's either deal with their mess or restart all over and not work towards your retirement. Like, it's not always as easy as just walking away. So we'll definitely talk to Dr. Garrett about that in the future. Y'all, I'm going to bring this show to a close, but thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Gems and Jams Radio with Kim Brio. I'm always grateful for you to be here, but I'm even more grateful for you to be here now that I've made the switch to my new home here at New Soul Radio. Again, I'm at WSOLDB Chicago, New Soul Radio. That's NUSOL Radio. Neo Soul and R&B from the 2000s to now. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, This is big and it's huge because this is actually my station. So this is the first show ever to broadcast on this station. It's far from the last. We're going to have Dr. Garrett launching her show soon. Hint, hint, you guys. I'm going to be inviting a few other people, but I just really want to thank you for being here, for listening, for tuning in. This is just the beginning of the journey. I cannot wait to continue this with you, and I will see you this Thursday here in the same place at 6 p.m. for the next episode of Gems and Jams Radio, where we will have our resident Thursday guest, Dr. Sherilyn Garrett. Thank you so much for listening. This is WSOLDB Chicago. I'll be back.
Starting a business? Grab Kim Brio's free brand identity checklist to remove the chaos around DIY in your brand. Get it free at kimbrio.com/checklist. That's Kim Brio. BRIO.com/checklist.
Starting a business? Kim Brio's 30-day brand takeover is for you. Get your new website, marketing plan, social media strategy, and all of the training you need in just 30 days. Apply now to see if you qualify for Kim Brio's 30-day brand takeover at www.30daybrandtakeover.com.
This podcast contains excerpts from New Soul Radio shows. For the full listening experience with music, visit newsoulradio.com. That's NUSOL radio.com.